Alright, so finally we get to talk about sex. And I'd like to thank the other 4 speakers for providing the foreplay. Because you don't want to talk about sex without a little bit of preparation, just as you don't want to have sex without a little bit of preparation. The foreplay is absolutely essential. And in fact, what's even more essential than the foreplay is what I like to call the beforeplay. Right? And what our other lovely 4 speakers have been talking about all day today is the beforeplay. Okay? So they talked about the importance of trust and connection and accepting your partner and about being able to resolve conflict and all of these beautiful things, to be able to speak your partner's love language. Okay? You see, when you're operating like that with your partner, it's kind of like you're constantly giving each other nice little bundles of energy. Little bundles of love and sexual energy. It all goes together. So you say something nice to your partner and they go, oh, yeah, it's a little bit of foreplay. You know, or you've done something wrong and you apologise. You're like, oh, yeah, it's kind of like it hits the waters up. And what it's really doing is it's providing, or it's maintaining what I like to call the factor. Right? Because you need the factor. That factor is what enables you to be able to look at your partner, despite everything, and go, I remember you. Hi. Right? Just like you had right at the beginning. And it's easy to lose that. You got the kids, you got the mortgage, you got the stress at work, your boss is a dickhead, your partner's an asshole, blah, blah. You know, yeah, with all of that around, it can be hard to sort of go, you're more likely to go, okay? So, one of the keys to be able to have a good ongoing sexual relationship with your partner is to be able to focus on the beforeplay. It's like you're living life as foreplay. You're constantly giving each other these little bundles of energy that make you go, okay? Because it's so important in a relationship. I like to talk about 3 pillars for a good, strong relationship. And one of those pillars, it's like a tripod, like this tripod here. If you're missing one of the stands, or if it's not very strong, it's going to be wobbly. God forbid if you're losing 2, you're really wobbly. And some relationships don't have any. Anyway, so one of them is friendship. Yeah? You need to be friends. That's really, really essential. You need to actually, radical concept, like each other. Okay? You need to have some things in common. You need to spend time doing things that you enjoy together. Alright, so that's one, being friends. The second one is being teammates in the game of life. Okay, that's the logistical side of life. It's about being able to raise children. It's about being able to pay off a mortgage, manage your finances and so forth. Okay, so that's the second one. If you can't do that very well, you're not going to have a good relationship. It's going to be too full of stress. And then the third is that you are lovers, right? Okay? And that you desire each other and that you express that desire in beautiful, loving ways. And often that one goes. So many people I see, they've got the other 2. We're good friends. But can't seem to get the sex thing happening, right? Or they've lost even the friendship, or they're just so busy focusing on paying off the mortgage and bringing up the children that they've kind of forgotten each other, right? One of my clients just last week put the 3 pillars in a different kind of analogy for her husband, who kind of had lost interest in sex. And I want to stress that about half the couples I see, it's the man who's got the lower desire. Okay, and there's probably lots of you sitting out there, it's actually the man's got the lower desire. That myth out there that the men are gagging for it all the time and the women are holding out is actually not true. Okay? So anyway, so I was telling them about the 3 pillars, and she was sort of saying, oh yes, well my husband likes food, so I think it's like lasagna. Oh, that's nice. I like to use food analogies, so I was kind of cool about this one. I'm like, oh, I'll use this one, as I am right now. She said, it's kind of like that teammate thing, the logistics. That's like the lasagna sheets. It's the pasta. It gives it structure. Yeah, and it's like the friendship bit is like the meat sauce, right? That gives it body and vibrancy and stuff. She goes, but it's actually the cream sauce that makes the lasagna special. Yeah, it's the cream sauce in it that makes it rich and delicious and oh so yummy that you want more, right? So it's actually the loving side of your relationship that gives it that something special, right? And it gives it that something special that differentiates you two as a unique couple. Yeah, it's that thing that makes you two unique. It's you and me, babe. Right? Okay. And it's kind of like the really good stuff. Because the human body, I think everyone's been talking a lot about science, and I'm a scientist, so I like to talk about science and brains and hormones and all that sort of thing. Because you see that human body thrives on pleasure. Okay? The more pleasure we give our bodies, the happier and healthier we are. You said in train all these cascades of positive hormones, right? By giving your body pleasure. And when I say pleasure, I just mean simple pleasures. You're talking about your cup of tea in the morning. Yeah? That's a lovely, simple little pleasure. And it's not like force-fed type pleasure. It's like the difference between fast food and quality food. All right? So eating lots of chocolate might be a pleasure, but that's not the sort of pleasure I'm talking about. A small amount of chocolate is fine. Okay. And as humans in particular thrive on sexual pleasure. Right? Humans are extraordinarily sexual creatures. We're about the most sexual creature on the planet. All right? Now, while we might hear about, I think it's the desert hopping mole or something, that they have sex for 20 hours straight and then the male dies of a heart attack. Now, you might think that they're the most sexual. But what's interesting about them, like virtually all other mammals, except the other great apes like us, is that they actually only have sex when the female is on heat. Okay? It really is just an animalistic drive. Oh my God, the pheromones are hitting, I've got to do this for 20 hours and then die. It's insane. But that's what most animals do. Humans don't do that. Okay? Humans can have sex at any time. Right? Not just when the female's fertile. There's no sighing, particularly when the female is fertile. All right? So clearly we are able to have, for humans, sex is much more a social function than it is a reproductive function. For other animals, it's reproductive. For humans, much more social. When you look at chimpanzees and bonobos, who are our closest relatives, you can see that it is the same for them. And it's kind of interesting why. And I think the reason why humans are so sexual, from an evolutionary point of view, is because our babies are born too early. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, why does our babies being born so early mean that we have lots of sex? Okay, so because we evolved these huge brains, really huge brains, we've got the biggest brains of all animals, in order for the baby to be born before it actually kills the mother with the huge head, babies have to come out when they're really undeveloped compared to other animals. Most other animals, they get up and they can sort of wander around, or at least when they stay safe, while mum goes off and, kills some deer and brings it back to feed the litter. Okay, no, not humans. Our babies are pathetic. They can't even hold their heads up, right? And it actually takes a human infant about 7 years before they can function independently. All right? So, back in the primitive days when we were evolving, we didn't have, the single mother pension or anything. There's no way a prehistoric mother would have been able to bring up a baby on her own, right? Far too pathetic. Okay, a human's babies just require so much attention to bring them up that she needed the help of others. Now, whether there's some contention as to whether we were pair bonding way back in those days, or whether the whole sort of tribe kind of got together, so to speak, to help raise the babies. Who cares? It was really important. And one of the primary things about humans that differentiates us from other species, apart from being very sexual, is how extraordinarily cooperative we are. Okay, we often think that humans are all about fighting and hating each other, but actually for the bulk of human evolution, it was actually cooperation that made us the successful species that we are now. And that is not seen more so than in our ability to raise these completely pathetic, helpless creatures to adulthood. Yeah? And it's our incredible brains that enables us to cooperate to, raise up these children. So, back in those days, we didn't have television and things to entertain us, to make us feel good. We didn't even have chocolate. So what did we do? We had lots of sex. Okay? So there's a lot of very, very good scientific evidence to show that the reasons we have sex all the time is to make each other feel good during those long years of raising up children, so that we actually liked each other. Okay? Because what happens when you have quality sex, like stress quality, because bad sex doesn't give you this result. When you have quality, loving sex, the cascade of hormones that floods your body just makes you feel fabulous. right? And it makes you feel good about your partner, right? You get all those lovely oxytocins going, all yummy, yummy stuff, right? And then you don't mind so much about the children and the mortgage and all those things. You feel good. It builds resilience in a relationship, okay? That's why we have lots of sex, or at least we're capable of. Someone get me a glass of water, please. Darling. Oh, no, you're not my darling. He's actually my darling, but you can get me a glass of water. Thank you. Darling, you're my darling. No, there's just one darling up the back there. Hello, see, he's up there filming me.
You might have a bucket soon.
All right. Okay, so that's a lot of theory, and some of you are going, well, look, that's all really interesting, but I'm just absolutely exhausted, and the last thing I can think about is sex, right? What are you going to do about that? Okay, fine. I actually believe if people aren't wanting to have sex with their partner, it's because they're trying to have the wrong sort of sex, okay? Because very good quality sex is a very enticing and enjoyable thing. The trouble is that most of us don't actually know what good quality sex is. Right? Thank you, darling. Don't get jealous. All right. So, why don't we know what good sex is? Well, basically because in the West we suppress sex for some thousands of years, 2,000 or 3,000 years. All right? In particular, we suppress female sexuality. For countless generations, we brought up our girls to think that they shouldn't be sexual, that they weren't sexual. If they were sexual, there was something wrong with them. And we tended to do charming things like stone them to death, burn them at the stake, lock them up in insane asylums. We were still locking girls up for promiscuity in the 1960s. And as we all know, in some parts of the world, they still do the stoning to death and burning women. They're even burning women in Papua New Guinea at the moment, actually, for being sexual. Yes, anyway, so the girls would grow up not having any expectation whatsoever of what sex was. If they were lucky, they might get a little bit of a talk by their mother the night before they got married about men have their needs, dear. Oh, okay, right. Now, the boys, bless them. As we all know, boys have got more prominent genitalia. And many of you who have boy children, as I do, know that about the age of 3 months they discover it. With much joy and hilarity generally by the family. Oh, look, little Johnny's playing with his penis. Isn't that funny? What's it like though when your daughter, first time she's like, I remember when my daughter, I've got 2 sons and a daughter, and the boys, oh, that's really funny. And then my daughter, 18 months old, legs akimbo in front of the TV. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm a professional. Right. Darling, you don't be... But, like for most girls, their very first experience of that would have been a slap. That is disgusting. Do not do that again. Right? For most girls, and these days too, probably most of you, the first time your parents saw you doing this, as you would have done, because girls do it, but no. Or at the very least, it would have been something about, that's kind of not really right. Girls are a lot more screwed up sexually, females, in our society than men, which is why my female workshops go for 2 days and the men's is only half a day. Seriously, we've got so much undoing to do. It's also because women have a lot more fun, so we enjoy a 2-day workshop, whereas the men are like, well, I don't know if we're going to go to a workshop all day. They always leave going, thank God I came, but I don't know. Thank God I attended your lovely workshop, but yeah. But most of them, one guy who came to, I did one a couple of weeks ago, and at the end of it he kind of goes, I was just about ready to pull my eyeballs out rather than come along to a workshop in sex. And he said afterwards, he said, oh my God, he said that was the best workshop I've ever done. He said that was amazing. So if any of you guys would like to attend, please do. You will not regret it. And, I've had comments like, you won't forget it either. It absolutely turns you around, okay, because of the approach to sex that I promote. You see, as I was saying, so the boys, they've discovered their little weenies, and then they hit puberty, and they discover that this feels really good, and oh my God, it's got a nice ending. Yeah, cool, right? So they got married, and of course I'm generalising here enormously, but I don't have time for much more than that. So they'd get married, and the girls would know nothing, except, oh yeah, that's right, men have their needs. Oh, got to do that, oh, okay. Oh, England. Yeah? And the guys would go, oh, I can do what I've always done inside this nice wet squishy space. Yeah. Cool. Oh, and I've come. Great, thanks, dear. Okay. So effectively the men were masturbating inside their wives. Excuse the crudity, but that's what it was. Okay? And that's basically the model of sex that we had. Right? Come the 1960s and 70s, the world wakes up and goes, oh, actually sex is good. We should all like sex. Women should like sex too. But we only had one model. I call it the adolescent male masturbatory model of sex. Right? 3 parts to that. One is, you've got to be horny, preferably gagging for it. Yeah, or want a root. Okay? That's part one. Yeah? Yeah, that libido thing. The libido thing. Oh, women don't know where their libidos are. They come like, oh, I put it that way. Yeah, we weren't supposed to have libidos. Now we're supposed to be gagging for it like teenage boys. Right, then part two is the jiggity jig. You've got to have intense genital stimulation. It's got to be intense in case mum finds you, because, you know, the guy's been doing this really quickly in case mum walks through the door, right? So his concept of what sex is, got to do it really fast. Yeah, so you've got to do it really fast. You've got to gag for it, you've got to do it really fast. And then you've got to finish with an orgasm. Right? One, but kidding me. But anyway, but apparently no, one generally is, and hopefully she's managed to have one along the way. We now have the chivalrous version, the chivalrous adolescent male masturbatory model of sex, where we give her an orgasm first and then it's on. Whoa. And everyone thinks that this is sex, this one model. Right? There's a few little variations, but it's basically that's what it is. You know, so if you're not gagging for it, or if you're not feeling horny, you can't have sex. There's a problem. All right? I can tell you, in a long-term relationship, you're not going to be gagging for it all the time. Doesn't matter how much little yumminess you give into each other. Most people don't go around, men as well. As I said, half the couples I see, it's the man. They're not going around going, oh, baby. Right? No, you're not. Okay? And then lots of people have problems with the actual jiggity bit. Right? You know, everyone thinks that sex involves penis and vagina. Or, you know, another orifice, but preferably, you know, vagina. Yeah? All right? Like, there's no concept that you can actually make love without the genitals meeting. Okay? And then there's got to be this orgasm. And it's a very male model of orgasm. It's like this intense sexual build-up, right? It's about sexual excitation that finishes with an explosive orgasm. And afterwards you feel really drained. Right? That's an orgasm. And if you're not having that kind of an orgasm, you're not having an orgasm, there's something wrong with you. Or there's something wrong with you. It's really interesting. You know, one thing I've discovered about couples who come to me with a complaint, doesn't matter what the sexual issue is, it's the one with the higher self-confidence who thinks that they don't have the problem, and it's the one with the lower self-confidence who accepts responsibility for the problem. Yeah? So, you know, let's say there's mismatched libido, which is very common. And, you know, let's say if the guy's got the higher libido and the higher self-confidence, he goes, she needs fixing, you know, she's prudish, she doesn't like sex, she's frigid, what's wrong with her, you need to be fixed. And if she's got lower confidence, she goes, oh yeah, what's wrong with me, I can't find my libido, it's gone somewhere. Yeah? Oh, I'm flawed. Or, but if it's the other way around, if he's the one, if she's got the high self-confidence, she goes, you bloody sex addict, all you can think about is sex, you're typical bloody male, you know. And he'll be going, yeah, what's wrong with me, I don't know what to do about this. Okay? Same the other way around. If he's got the lower desire, she's got the higher desire. If she's got the higher confidence, she'll go, what's wrong with you? You know, you're not a typical man, you know. But, you know, everyone else is kind of gagging for it and you don't want it, what's wrong with you? And he'll go, I don't know what's wrong with me, I don't want to have sex. It's the other way around. He'll be going, oh, woman, what's wrong with you? You know, I'm so busy working all the time. How can I possibly have time for sex as well? You want me to provide for the family, pay the mortgage, and you want to have sex as well? Give me a break. Right? Rather watch porn. She goes, okay, what's with me? I can't be attractive enough. All right? It doesn't matter what the issue is. Right? It's nothing to do with sex. It's got to do with all the other stuff that everyone else has been talking about. Anyway, so, now what you need to understand then is that sex is like food in the sense that there's a lot of variety. And just as with food, sometimes all you want is, you know, just a bit of cheese on toast. Right? Just a bit of cheese on toast, nothing more. Hey, it can be quality cheese on toast. It can be artisan baked sourdough with the finest Gruyere and some fancy mustard that you bought in a little shop out in the country. Fantastic. Very simple, but beautiful. Or you can have a 4-course meal, 8-course meal. Right? It can be all sorts of things. You can have a picnic. You know, it doesn't have to be a 3-course meal, step 1, step 2, step 3. Yeah, and we're done. It's like a picnic, like, a bit of that, some more of that, and then we'll stop and have a chat for a while, and then we'll go straight to that. Yeah? There's actually no rules about sex. We think there's rules about sex, but there are no rules about sex. Okay? Now, fortunately I know this, because I am a sex geek. I am. Proudly a sex geek, fascinated by sex. You know, physically, emotionally, spiritually, historically, socially, the whole thing, love it. And while I have studied sex in the Western scientific model, got a master's degree in sexual health, it's so limited, right? This is why I kind of looked into it and discovered it's the whole adolescent masturbatory model, blah, blah, blah. But I've also studied Tantra and daoist sexual practices because pretty well every culture other than the West had a pretty broad and deep understanding of sex. They saw sex as an art and as a science. They saw it as a healthful aspect of life. So I've studied all of that stuff too. So I like to bring that and translate a lot of that because often it seems a bit hippie-ish. It doesn't have to be hippie-ish. I like to bring that to the modern 21st century audience and show you how you can have really beautiful, ongoing quality lovemaking throughout your whole lives. But you should still be making beautiful love when you're 99. Yes? But you sure as hell won't be gagging forehead and rooting when you're 99, right? And what you're going to be doing, what I really encourage you to do, and look, there's nothing wrong with a good root. Don't get me wrong, I love a good shag myself. But it's not the only... sorry, darling, don't mind me sharing it. But it's not the only type of sex. And when you're a tired mother, you know, you've got the baby and you've been up all night and you're leaking milk everywhere and your tummy's still a bit funny and you're not going to want to shag. You know, and if hubby's like, come on, darling, you're kind of like, oh, do I have to? Oh, all right, just make it quick, please. You want me to do what to you? I'm so tired. Yeah, no, that's not going to work. You need to adapt, all right? And when you have your babies, it's not the only time you're going to have to adapt. All throughout life, there's going to be times when you want different types of sex. Okay? And you have to learn some of those skills that the other speakers have been talking about in terms of communicating your needs, right? And accepting the other person's needs. And figure out what it is that you want. I remember when my third child was born, and I was 5. The uterus was shattered. And, but my husband and I were not together anymore. We decided that we actually didn't have the friendship thing going, so we've now gone and find nice friends. But at the time we were still together. And we were trying to have good sex. And I remember we said, how are we going to manage this? Because the mornings were impossible and the nights we just kind of couldn't do it for a while, so when the baby was a baby. So we decided that he'd come home for lunch on a Tuesday. Right? So every Tuesday for about 3 months, he came home for lunch. Sometimes he actually had lunch too. Right? Now, that is just an example of how you need to adapt. Right? Now, sure, it wasn't swinging from the chandeliers type sex, but it felt kind of a bit naughty. It was a bit like being teenagers again. It was a little bit different. We kind of got a little bit of the... Okay? And then that kind of got us through, and a few months later we could resume, you know, more standard type of lovemaking. But if we'd taken that 3 months and just gone, no. If I'd just said, nah, Dad, you've got to be joking. Christ, fucking men, sex addict, can't you see I'm so tired? Right, we wouldn't have had any sex, and probably in 3 months' time we still wouldn't have been having any more. Yeah? Or we might have had a bit. Oh, all right, if we have to. Okay? Foreign nails while I was doing it. Okay? And that type of sex would not be releasing the happy hormones. Right? Obligation sex does not release happy hormones. Please never have obligation sex. Men generally can't. That's one of the advantages of needing an erection. But women have obligation sex all the time. And what that's doing to you, both physiologically, the nervous level, and also emotionally, is low-level trauma. So many women subject themselves to constant low-level sexual trauma by just doing it, right? Without actually taking the time to connect, and without coming from the heart. Okay? Because one of the keys to good quality ongoing lovemaking in a long-term relationship, I'm stressing the long-term relationship, this is not meeting someone in a nightclub and shagging that night. You don't have to be heartfelt for that. It's completely genital-based. You've got to come from the heart. It's kind of like that factor. See, because that factor is not like raw factor. No. It combines the heart and the sexual. Okay? That's what you want to be able to do. Right? So if one of you is more genitally focused, and men tend to be because of their particular biology. You've got a lot more testosterone. Great, use that desire, but bring it up into your heart and approach your partner from the heart. Okay? And if you're more heart-based, then you can use that to sort of kind of like, take a bit longer to really kind of remember what it's like and what you're feeling. Give yourself the time. One thing modern parents don't do, they don't give themselves the time. Women in particular, with our physiology, we're more of the slow boil. Okay? If you're keeping yourself at a simmer all the time, you're going to be a lot more ready. Women who have a high sex drive, they don't have masculine testosterone. They're the same amount as the rest of the women. What they're doing is they're kind of keeping themselves on a simmer, which is about looking after themselves and about having that quality foreplay with their partner. If you've got the factor going, then it's a lot easier to sort of seed into some nice quality lovemaking, whether it's in the evening or the Sunday morning or on that Tuesday lunchtime, than if you haven't. Okay? So a couple of things that I want to stress for you right now, and I have absolutely no idea how I'm going with time. How much more time have I got?
You can go to midnight.
I usually do. My workshops are a lot longer than half an
Nothing
hour.
wrong with that.
All right. So come and do the workshop because you'll get heaps more. And I can't give you too much about how to actually do this, especially not in this environment. This is so unsexy. I'm so patient, really.
And children are around.
But that's okay. In fact, that brings me to my next point. Thank you, sir. Because one of the things you need to do is to raise your children to know that mummy and daddy have cuddle time. Right? Term I use with my children. So my children grew up from the tiniest age knowing that mummy and daddy have cuddle time, which tended to be on a Sunday morning, and they were allowed to watch lots of videos. They love mummy and daddy's cuddle time. Okay? Because I'm a Sunday morning kind of a gal. Yeah? That's a really good time. I always encourage couples to find a time for, it's like sacred space. But you need to make your bedroom beautiful as well. Make sure there's no photos of kids or too much kid crap in the bedroom. Make your bedroom gorgeous. You should see mine. You just walk in there and you start lubricating. It's so lovely. All right? And that's what you need. If you're a tired mother, you've got to let your environment do it for you as well. All right? So there's a bit of an expectation on your poor bloke. Like, he's tired as well. You know, and you feel like, I'm so tired, and he's kind of like, I'm really tired too. Yeah, like, use your environment to do it for you. Okay, so go home and redecorate the bedroom. Absolutely essential. Sacred space, sacred time as well. So, so cuddle time could be on a Sunday morning. And, just let the kids know. Kids love cuddles. They get it. So if you say to your children, mummy and daddy having cuddle time, you don't need to give them the details. Right? But when mummy and daddy have cuddles, we make love. And when we make love for the whole family. Right? And you're being absolutely honest. And the kids will see it. Because kids love to see their parents happy. Right? And if you're having lovely, even if it's a little bit simple at this space in your life, love making, but, it's nice. It's like that really good quality, cheese on toast. Maybe a bit more. Maybe have some pickled onions on the side. Depends whether the baby slept through the night or not, really, doesn't it? But anyway, so if you raise your children to know that, then that gives you time to do it as well. Right? It'd be okay, put a little lock on the door, put one of those child sound things where they are if that's really bothering you. It depends how old they are. I know there's a lot of issues there. But if you do that, you'll also be modelling a really good quality relationship for them. All right? And that is so essential. And if you're feeling good, then they're going to be feeling good. And I just have to say this because it's so important, especially for young people these days. They're getting so much of their sex education from porn. All right? The school system's getting more and more prudish and saying less and less and less. And so what are the kids doing? They're turning to porn. And so many young people are thinking that porn is good sex. Okay? Porn is not good sex. Porn is just visually titillating for men sex. Okay? Men have a particular sexual response that they look at bodies going like this and it turns them on. Okay? Most women look at bodies doing like this and you're either completely bewildered or turned off. Okay? We have a different sexual arousal. Don't have time to go into that right now. Okay? But a lot of young people are thinking that's sex. So, can I just share a couple of examples from my own family? My eldest son is now 17. He's doing his HSC. Lovely young man. And when he was 5, he came home from school. And he goes, Mum, Dad, do you do this? Right? And we're like, yes, that's cuddle time, right? And he was so amused. Like, he couldn't quite get the cuddle time, which was this really normal thing that mummy and daddy do. Not quite sure what they do, but he knows it's good and they always come out happy, so that's fine. And this kind of really naughty, like, X, which he was getting at 5, and this is a really good quality school, right? And how happy was I that at 5, his concept of sex was cuddle time, right? So let's fast forward 10 years, he's 15 years old. Because we have this idea that, you know, young men just want to rude all the time and it's all terrible and lock up your daughters. So here's my lovely son, and he's a very good-looking young man, I have to tell you. I know I'm being a bit vain there, but he is, so he gets lots of attention. Anyway, so he had his first serious girlfriend. I'm thinking, okay, he's only 15, but I better have the talk. I mean, he knows about sex, obviously, but just make sure you're using the condom. And he goes, Mum, I'm only 15. And he goes, I'm like, oh, yeah, a few. And he goes, I don't want to do that yet. He goes, you know what I love, Mum? There's a 15-year-old boy. He goes, I just love lying on the trampoline with her, holding hands and looking up at the stars. He goes, it doesn't get better than that, Mum. And I'm like, you know what, Ryan? You are absolutely right. It doesn't get better than that, right? And that's a lesson for us as adults to remember, that it doesn't get better than that. That's the before play. That's the okay? Whatever your genitals happen to do as a consequence of that is extra. But it's actually that lying on the trampoline holding hands and looking up at the stars. All right? Now, if a 15-year-old boy knows that, we as adults certainly should. And I'm also proud to say that he wants to follow in his mother's footsteps and become a sex therapist. Isn't that great? Mother and son sex therapists. I have to tell you this. We're in the car the other day. Fast forward, he's actually having sexual relationships with his current girlfriend. We're sitting in the car, driving to Canberra, where my parents live. And he's like, Mum, I'm like, yeah. You know, we often have good quality talks when we're driving to Canberra because he's sitting facing front. Mum, you know how you're an expert at all? He goes, well, this is a little bit awkward, but I figure I should probably make the most of it. So can I ask you some questions? Oh, it's so lovely. Anyway, but see, you can model this really positive sexuality to your children as well, right? And I think this is so essential. And please go and have a look at my website because there's so much good information there. And look, this might sound really super vain of me, but there's not many people like me in the world. Yeah, there's not that many people that have this breadth of knowledge and have been able to kind of communicate it to people. It's really
Okay, copy and paste.
Please do. There's over 170 articles on my blog alone, right? And I'm on lots of workshops, and I'm about to have my own international radio show at the Tantric Lounge. Sex, science and spirituality to the thinking person. So yeah, that's all exciting. So lots of good things are happening. And I've actually noticed in the 8 years that I've been specialising in sex, I think there's been a shift in society. You know, I noticed in the questions that the media asked me, back then it was all about, you know, tips and tricks and how can we, you know, shag harder and stuff. But now they're kind of asking more quality stuff, more sensuality. And clients are coming to me saying, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. You know, we're intelligent people, we're living great lives now. There's got to be more to this sex thing than just this kind of, yeah, we're done. Oh, that was nice. Right? And there is so much more to it. Once you really understand just how fundamental your sexuality is to us as humans, how important it is to bond with your partner. You know, you have really good quality sex, it keeps you young, it keeps you vital, it keeps you healthy. Right? I'm 49 years old and I have 3 children. I know a lot of people say that I don't look like that. Right? And it is in part, and when I say sexuality, I don't mean that I'm shagging like a rabbit all the time. I'm not. I have 3 children and a busy practice. But you bring it into the whole of your life. Like your sexuality infuses you, and it gives you vitality. And then if the opportunity arises, you're kind of like, oh yes, why not? In your beautiful bedroom that's got you going already. Okay? So that's what I would like you to take away from this. But please, do remember that it's all about the foreplay. I think it's really important that Pei-Shan had 4 times as many people talking about the before play as the actual sex. Because it is at least 4 times as important. That is what's going to get you having a fabulous, beautiful, loving sex. And then you get this great positive feedback loop going. So when you make love with each other, you will make love for your whole family and beyond. Yeah? Happy, loving people create happiness and love around them. So go and make love. There's quite a few good ones out there. Yeah. I was just talking about books. My first book I ever wrote was called The Sex Life Survival Guide for Parents, which is out of print now, but you can buy it as an ebook on my website. It's very good. Yeah. Yeah. But there are some really good ones out there. Yeah. Yeah. And there's lots of age-appropriate ones too.
What was your send off again? Happy loving people
What did I say?
at the very end.
Oh.
Happy loving people don't make love.
Happy loving people make happiness and love. Yeah, they make happiness and they make love. And the one I see
on my mirror.
Oh yeah, and the one about make love with each other and you make love for your family.
That was the fourth program.
Yeah. Anyone else?